Hey everybody, here we are. We're going to talk about storytelling in this unit number 1. And not going to go into the great details that, say, a Bill Moyers or a Joseph Conrad would go into in terms of talking about storytelling. But really what we're going to focus on is why do we use storytelling and how does storytelling work when we are giving a presentation. So often when we are giving presentations, we get bogged down in details. We get bogged down in the feature sets, functionalities, price points, analytics, data, and we lose our audiences. What storytelling can do is pull an audience in. It helps you engage. As Lisa Cron said, she's the author of a great book called Wired for Story. Our brains are wired for story. They literally are. It's in our DNA. It's something that we need as we're growing up. As you can see in this picture here, this is something that we all did as children, and it's what we do for our children today. We read books. We read stories, we tell stories. It's what makes us human. It's what connects us to our audiences, whether that's one person or 100 people or 1,000 people. Nancy Duarte said something really poignant in the last few years, and she said that campfires have been replaced with projector bulbs. And it's very poignant and it's very correct, right? Now we are so hung up on slides, and I'm not going to do a lot of slide talk in my presentations and in this course because other teachers in this unit are talking about it. But we rely on PowerPoint, we rely on Prezi, we rely on Keynote to tell our stories. And rather than sitting around a campfire telling a story, we're shining these huge images up on screens and we're letting them tell the story for us, and we're losing the art of spinning a tale and really using vibrant language and exciting themes to engage our audiences and bring them in. Now, one of the things that we fail at when we are telling stories, especially in the business setting, whether you're giving a sales pitch or you're with a client and talking about analytics and data from the website or whatever it is, we tell too many details. We get way into the weeds and we go for it and we go deep and we tell the entire story. And if you look at this picture, 99-cent stores are overwhelming with visual stimulation, colors, lights, product. And it's kind of like what happens when we tell stories. We tell all these details that 2 weeks later, nobody's going to remember those details. 2 weeks after you give a presentation, what they're going to remember is how you made them feel, not the minuscule minutia and data that you got across. Now, you may leave behind a spreadsheet or a deck of some sort, and they'll remember that because they'll be able to look at it, but they're not going to remember what you actually said. So don't tell too much of the story. In fact, there's something called the rule of 3, and the rule of 3 has been around forever, right? We've got the 3 little pigs, Goldilocks and the 3 bears. You can see the slide here. There's all different, and there's many more that you can probably think of different sets of 3. And the reason the rule of 3 exists, especially from a presentation skills standpoint, is because it's all they can remember. And when I say they, I mean the audience. And there's something very important about the audience. As a presenter, I would say maybe 5 to 10% of the time you're actually presenting. The other 90 to 95% of the time, you're in the audience. So you know as a presenter how the audience is paying attention to you, how they view you, how they're probably judging you as you speak or not paying attention to you. So knowing that, as you are once and always will be an audience member, keep 3 things at the top of your story, right? I'm going to talk about this, this, and this. I'm going to talk about 1, 2, and 3, A, B, and C. The more details you start going into, the less they're going to pay attention and they're going to get confused. Remember, if you're presenting data, or a sales pitch even, and it's a feature set of a great new product, you know that inside and out. You have to assume that your audience doesn't. And if you overwhelm them with too many details, it's going to be like walking into a 99-cent store and not knowing where to go, what aisle to go to, what to buy, because you're overwhelmed with audio and visual stimulation. Now, what I'm getting at is you have to be respectful to your audience. Remember, as a presenter, you're not there for yourself. You're there for them to learn. If you're telling a story, you're taking them on a journey. You're trying to get them to change their behavior in some way. You're trying to persuade them to whatever it is you're trying to get across, whether to buy your product, to hire you, could be an interview where you're telling the story. You got to be respectful of the audience and their ability to absorb only so much information over a short amount of time. So let's talk about actual storytelling, a couple interesting things that I've picked up over the years. Richard Kearney said it great. While food makes us live, stories are what make our lives worth living. And it's true. Stories nourish the brain. They make us excited. Great. You've all witnessed great storytellers. You may be great storytellers yourselves, and you know that your audiences react to them and engage in that, and it resonates with them. Rather than just getting up there saying, the fourth quarter results are that our year over year was up 2%. Don't go into that dialogue. Go into something saying, wow, fourth quarter was amazing, and I'll tell you why, because Joe in marketing figured out a great way to sell our product. Again, I'm making this up, but again, stories make our lives worth living. We want to pay attention to them. And being authentic is great. You want to be an authentic speaker. You want to feel it. You want to show the audience that you truly believe in what you're talking about, but it's not enough. You need structure. Your stories need structure. In fact, it goes all the way back to when we were kids. The story train. Beginning, what happened first? Middle, what happened next? End, what happened last? It's important that your stories in your presentations have a beginning, middle, and end. How do you want to take your audience on this journey? What behavior do you want them to change? How do you want them to engage with you? Well, once upon a time, we were a small company, and we did all these great things, and now we're a great company. Very simple, I understand. But the idea here is figure out what your structure is. It's very important to have your structure. Because if you don't start with story and you don't get into interesting things and you just focus on data, right? Your brain on data activates two regions, Broca's and Wernicke's, language processing and language incomprehension. So when you're up there and you've got a spreadsheet up on the screen or you've got some sort of financial report or something, your audience's brains in two areas are firing. Oh, okay, I'm processing what he's saying, okay, or what she's saying, and now I'm understanding it a little bit more, and I'm comprehending it, and I'm processing it more, and that's all you get from their brain, because they're like, okay, that number means this, that number means that. Got it. Now, your brain on stories can activate 7 regions. Yes, Broca's and Wernicke's are still going because you're processing language, but look where else your brain explodes. Olfactory cortex, sense. Auditory cortex, sounds. Movement, touch, colors, and shapes. Because at this point, you're painting a picture. When you tell a story, you build up characters, you build up products, you talk about them. Oh, when we introduced our new pizza recipe to the restaurants, the smells permeated throughout. You could smell the oregano and the garlic, rather than saying, "Oh, our new pizzas have gone up 2% since last year." Right? The more you can paint a picture, the more you can bring in vision, sound, you can bring in color. The brain is firing. People are moving up in their seats and sitting forward, leaning forward, and their eyes are on you and they're paying attention because they want to know what happens in the end. Stories engage the brain more. Data is good. Stories are better. Which is why I always tell people, if you're going to present data to me, don't just print out a report. Find the narrative in the data. What is the data telling us? What's the story behind the data? Why did people go to that web page versus that other web page? Not 50% went to this page, 21% went to this page, and the rest went to this other page. That doesn't tell me anything. Tell me why they went to this other page, and tell me who they are. Because stories trigger emotional responses. Right? You want your audience to go, you want them to feel happy, sad, excited, wanting to buy something, wanting to change. They walk out of your presentation saying, I feel so good, I need to buy that product, or we need to hire that person, or we need to do better next year. Right? Because your main objective is to elicit an emotion. Again, data and spreadsheets are good. I'm not saying that data isn't important, but when you tell a story, people feel something, and when they feel something, that's what they remember. I could tell you I saw a movie 6 months ago, couldn't tell you, sometimes I can't remember the title of it, but couldn't tell you exactly what the character said, but I can tell you, wow, that movie made me feel happy, or that movie made me feel sad, because it elicited an emotion, and that emotion is a memory, and that memory stays with me. Because I'm going to close with this in this unit. When you get up to present, when you get up and it's your opportunity, whether it's a 3-minute presentation or a 30-minute presentation, it's with colleagues, it's a keynote, it's a TED Talk, I don't care what it is. Make me care. Make me care about what you're talking about. Make me feel something. Make me go beyond just the simple details of the 3 things that you're going to talk about so that when it is over, I care about what you said. I care for myself. I care for you. I care for the company. I care for the product. I care for the world, whatever it is. By using story, painting pictures, using adjectives and visual cues and auditory cues and sounds, your presentations come alive. And in the end, the audience is engaged and they care about what you're talking about.